today's video we're going to be looking at writing the equation of a function given a graph. So actually this is an inequality. The same sort of thing would happen if you were doing an equation, except you don't have to worry about the area of shading. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, what kind of function is this? Because this creates a V, so the function has a shape. What's the shape? The shape is a V. That means we know that this is an absolute value. Okay, so the easiest way to write the equation of a function given a graph, well, there's a couple ways, but for this we're going to use the vertex form. So vertex form, because we can see very clearly that we know what the vertex is right here. So that's the vertex. So the vertex is a special xy that we call hk, and we've learned this with the transformation of functions. So the vertex form for an absolute value function, you should recall, is y is equal to a absolute value x minus h plus k. So we can see just by looking at the graph, it's very easy for us to find our h and our k because they're given right here. So let's write down what they are. Well, our h is negative 1, 2, so our h is negative 2, and our k, I'm going to write this here as well, and our k is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. So we have to remember that our h, this is our h, that gets put in there. Notice our h, this negative in front, has nothing to do with the h here. They're two separate negatives. And this is our k, and that gets put in right there. So that then means we have the equation y equals a absolute value of x minus, and I'm going to put in our value of h, which was negative 2, and then I have my plus k. So notice I'm just creating a place for those values to go, and then I'm going to clean it up. So that means y is equal to a absolute value of x. A minus times a minus is a plus, and a plus times a minus is a minus. Okay, we are almost done. The only thing we have to figure out is our a. So we're going to think of a as like slope. Okay? And what I'm going to show you right now is a shortcut. The only reason I can do this for absolute value is because I have a straight line. So we're going to find a by getting the slope of the right side of the function. Okay, so it's very important that we just look at the right side. Now this is a shortcut, so I'm going to write that down. This is a shortcut, and it only works when we're looking at absolute value or lines. Okay, remember this is a piecewise function of a positive linear and a negative linear. Okay, so that's the only reason we can do this. It's a shortcut, and it only works for this kind of function. So let's figure out slope. So what is slope? Slope is rise over run. Okay? So rise is my up and down, and run is my left and right. So all the same. We also write it as, this means the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so we don't need to do any numbers, we just need to start from one point and go to another point, and then we can figure it out. So I'm going to start at my vertex, and then I'm going to look for another place where my function meets a crosshair. So a crosshair are these little hash marks that are on my xy coordinate plane. So that's one point, that's the other point. So I have to do my rise first. So if I go up to the same level as my next point, that would be 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write over here, slope is up 3. And it's very important you put up, because that's going to tell you whether it's positive or negative. And then my run is just over 1. So that's right 1. So it's very important that you put the direction. Because up is positive, I can say my slope is positive 3. And because right is positive, I'm going to say plus 1. So this all simplifies to 3. Okay? So that means then that I know what my A is. So I can take my value of 3 and I can put it in for my A. So then that means that my equation of this function, if it's an equation, I'm starting with an equation, is y is equal to 3 absolute value x plus 2 minus 4. But we got one more step to do. We have to remember right here that this is not an inequality. So I have one more step. I have to figure out where I'm going to, what I'm going to put for my inequality. So I know it's going to be y something, 3 absolute value x plus 2 minus 4. So just like we were trying to figure out where we were going to shade, now we're going to figure out what is shaded. So we're going to do the same technique that we've done before. We're going to go to our y-intercept right here. So that there, let's mark that as my y-intercept. And I'm going to ask myself, where is the shading? The shading is below. Okay? So the shading is lower or below. That means we have y is less than, because the value of y right here is 2. 0 is clearly less than 2. So y is less than our function. So we're going to say y is less than down here. Now we have to ask ourselves, are we going to put the equal symbol bar underneath that or not? And the answer is no, because this is dashed. So this here is our final answer. So we were able to look at the graph, and we were able to write the inequality. So let's just check it. We're going to check it by going to y equals. We're going to put in 3, absolute value, x plus 2, and then we're going to put in minus 4. Okay. Now we're going to go over here to the color, and we're going to make that a less than symbol. So remember, it's going to be the triangle on the bottom, because the bottom is less than. So then we go to graph, we're going to see, okay, good, it's shaded on the bottom. That's exactly what we wanted. But we also want to make sure that we have the same points. So we're going to make sure that we have the point -2, -4, and then this here would be the point 0, 2. And we can even pick another point. We could pick like this point right here to test, and this point here is -5, 5. So we're going to see if we have those points. We're going to go to our table, and we're going to look for, well, x is -5, and it's saying y is 2. So evidently we have a mistake. And then if I look down here, -2, 4. Let me see, did I put this in right? Oh, made a mistake. Okay, so let's go back. So that's a good learning experience. I made a mistake, so I'm going to go back because I put in absolute value of x plus 3, and that should have been absolute value of x plus 2. So always be careful with that. That's a learning experience. We all make those kinds of mistakes, and you can see that they look very similar in our graph. And the other lesson to that is just don't assume that the picture looks similar, that it's the same. So there you have it live. So let's go ahead and look at the table again, and there we have it, -5, 5, and that there was -2, -4, and then we have 0, 2. Okay, so we have at least 3 points that match up here. So again, you saw that I made a mistake in graphing, and when I went back to check it and not just assume that I was totally wrong, but I made a mistake somewhere, and that's a part of the learning experience.